Hello everyone, welcome back to Blockman Editor tutorial. In these videos, we will give you a complete introduction to the Blockman Editor. In the previous videos, we have learned what a global variable is and what an entity variable is. In this video, we will learn about the contents related to the local variable. Alright, let's get started. First, the local variable is also a type of variable which are used to store game data. The main difference between the global variable and the entity variable is that they are used in different areas. The local variable's use is limited to the current trigger edit page. For example, create a new trigger when the part is touched by an entity and trigger when the part is clicked. If we create a local variable in the trigger when the part is touched by an entity editing page, then this local variable can only be used in the current trigger edit page, not in other trigger edit pages. So, how do you create a local variable? Unlike the global variable and entity variable, we have to create a local variable by using action nodes. Double-click on the execution interface to open the action node list, and under the variable node, find and select Set Local Variable. With this action node, now we can create a local variable. In the variable name parameter, we need to fill in a name for the local variable, which is used to mark the local variable. As for the value of the local variable, the parameter type it needs to be connected to is var, which means any type of parameter. Dragging out the action node list from this execution interface, you can see that the list contains many different types of action nodes. You can choose the corresponding action node according to the specific game logic. In addition to the method above, we can also create local variables by using action nodes related to loop and iterate. Under the logic node, you can find the loop execution, for loop, and iterate over the array nodes. Let's select and look at each of them. It can be seen that in all three nodes, there is a parameter called the local variable. We can fill in a name here, this way we can also create local variables. However, it is important to note that the local variables created in these three nodes are best used only for the game logic associated with these three nodes. If you use the local variables created by these three nodes in other logic of the current trigger edit page, the unpredictable errors might occur in the game. The specific effects of these three nodes will be explained in future videos. Finally, another important thing to note is that the names of local variables can be repeated, but we do not recommend using repeated names for local variables. Because the sequence of action execution in the trigger node runs from the top down, for renamed local variables, the local variables in the logic executed further in the back will replace the local variables from the previous logic. For example, we first create a local variable HP, and set its value to 10. Then create another local variable named HP, and set its value to 20. We then use this local variable to set the number of hit points for the player entity. You can see that the final display of player entity's hit points is 20. Next, let's look at how to use local variables through an example. The example's goal is when the player uses the item, it will cause damage to all monsters in the game. Here we have already prepared an item. We first open the trigger edit interface of this item, and then create a new trigger when the item is used. When the item is used, we first need to obtain all the monster NPC in the game. We use the iterate over the array node under the logic node, and connect obtain all entities of the same template, under the entity node here in the array parameters. Select NPC for the entity template parameter. This means that we will iterate through the game one by one to get the monster NPC, and then each time we get a monster NPC, we will execute the specific game logic connected to the action node. Next, we fill in a name for the local variable to create a local variable. This means that, whenever we get a monster NPC from the iteration, we use this local variable to save the monster NPC. This allows us to use this local variable in the game logic connected to the action node to obtain the monster NPC. Finally, we want to implement the logic for damaging the monster NPC. Connect damage entity under the entity node after action node. After the entity parameter is to connect the node, obtain local variable, which is under the variable node. The variable name parameter should be filled with the name of the local variable written before, this way we can get the same local variables. Then fill in the damage parameter with the number 5. This completes all our logic. The full logic is that after using the item, it will iterate the scene to find all the monster NPC, and deal 5 damage to each monster NPC it finds. Go back to the editor, then click Run and let's see the result. As you can see, when we use the item, all the monster NPC in the game have taken damage. That's all for this video. We hope it can help you on your way to a great creator. If you want to know more about the editor, you can comment below the video or post on the official forum. See you in the next video.